Hello and welcome back to RamsTalkPodcast. And we're here today with a bit of a different episode. We're shaking things up a little bit. I'll explain that in a little while about how we're going to do it and stuff like that. But this is the first sort of midweek episode that we've got. Things are going to change regarding previews, but it's going to be a load of fun. We hope that you'll enjoy it as much as we've enjoyed coming up with these ideas. And to kick it off today, we've got a little bit of an episode, maybe going a little bit over Derby's, not great Christmas periods. 1 win in 4 isn't great, is it? Even though that win was pretty good. But today we're going to be focusing more on transfers. We're going to be looking at players that we should bring in, players that we think as a group we should bring in. And yeah, there's plenty of those because there's plenty of gaps in this Derby side. So joining me today, first off, podcast debutant Dan McSheffrey. How are you, Dan?
Yeah, all good. Like I said, come down after yesterday. Not a great day, but generally good. Had a really good Christmas and Happy New Year to all the Rams.
Yeah, absolutely. Happy New Year. This is our first episode of 2025. So yeah, nice to have you here with us. And we've also got a man you'll probably be a bit more familiar with. We've got Vik Singh as well. How are you, Vik?
Part of the furniture, isn't I? Yeah, but all good, mate. How about yourself?
Yeah, I'm doing good. Thank you. I'm the same. I think when it got to 3-0 yesterday, it was bizarre, wasn't it? It kind of really exposed some of our weaknesses, didn't it? I don't think Sonny Bradley played especially well in the first half, and he just got turned inside and out. And Dan, it was weird, wasn't it, that we kind of changed system a bit, and it wasn't really what we expect from Derby. We don't usually get pulled apart like that.
Well, I just think we kind of bought right into it with our starting lineup. So they've got a couple of tricky, pacey wingers. And then we play 2 of our slowest players. I mean, you drop Elder, who's had a great couple of games or whatever. Stick Fozzie in there. I get it. You got to mix it up, but particularly the two breakaway goals, if you want to call them that. Yeah, that really highlighted it for me. I think Paul Warne started a team that played a bit into Wednesday's hands.
Yeah, I think he had to rotate it a bit, didn't he, Vic, with so many games in so few days. But Dan's right. I think we just look so slow. And if you look at the goals that we conceded, almost all of them come from, one of our defenders having to cover one of the other ones because they're not quick enough or something along those lines. And then they make the mistake. And it was a bit weird, wasn't it? And I don't think that the defensive performance is very similar to a lot of the defensive performances this season.
And I think it goes to show the lack of sort of squad depth we've got in those areas. I mean, Cashin's out, and you can already see he's a huge miss. Players like Niambe, if they were playing yesterday, the scoreline might have been different, but it is what it is. It's just a shame that the players we've got in waiting are not as good as the ones that are in the starting, which shows that we do need investment in the side. And yesterday just really highlighted, especially with Sonny Bradley and bless him, Craig Forsyth as well. I love Craig Forsyth, but we just know the legs aren't there anymore. It's a shame, but it's just one of those things. And we really got exposed yesterday by a very quick attacking 4 or 5 that they had going forward. And I think if 3 of the 4 of their goals all came from defensive mistakes, and we couldn't catch up to them after that. So it is what it is. I guess we didn't set up right. I think the back 5 for me, changing from whatever we were playing to a back 5, I just don't think it sent the wrong idea to me. If I'm being honest, I just didn't think we needed to change that much in terms of shape because everything up until that point worked. But yeah, it's just one of those. You dust yourself off, and congratulations to Sheff Wednesday and the 6 points, and we'll go again against Bristol City.
Yeah, I think we have to. We really have to. I mean, Dan, when we look at some of the goals that we conceded as well, they were pretty shambolic. That 4th one with Curtis. In fact, Curtis Nelson, who I actually thought had a pretty good game, but for 2 of their goals was just nowhere. There was the one towards I think it might have been the goal from the halfway line, actually, where he gets beaten to the 50-50 and then he scores from his own half, which was ridiculous. Probably one of the best goals I've ever seen live. And then that last goal as well, where he sort of like misjudges the bounce, it flicks over his head and Zetterstrom makes the save, but he fires in the rebound. I mean, it seemed weird, didn't it? And it seemed quite out of character for Derby because we actually seemed quite good going forwards. We created quite a lot of chances, but as has been the whole season, we just didn't take them.
Well, I may be wrong in saying this. I thought it was Nat Phillips that face planted the floor for the 4th goal, but maybe I was wrong.
Oh yeah, he did face plant the floor just before. Yeah, just before Nelson missed the header.
I just think like the Windass goal is kind of another highlight reel goal that unfortunately we're on the back end of yet again. Just goes all over social media and it's against us. But it just goes to show they don't start a couple of guys. They got a guy like Windass who can come off the bench, a player who rumoured we were interested in the summer and before that as well. And then the guys we're bringing off the bench ain't quite up to that standard. But I think yesterday was just a case of it probably could have gone either way. But in the end, it's a little bit more of the same for me. I'm getting quite used to this, which is a little bit worrying in a way, performances, and it just feels like it's one step forward, two steps back. And like I said yesterday in the chat with the rest of you guys, I don't think anyone's to actually blame. I can't quite put my finger on it, but it's not down to us, and we're not paid to figure it out. That's down to Warren, his coaching staff, and the players.
It is, and he's got the perfect time now, hasn't he? He's got the perfect time where we're headed into the transfer window. We've got quite a few players we need to get rid of. We've got quite a few players to come in. Before we touch on players that we want to come in, let's start with players that are outgoing, Vic. I mean, names that come into my head, I can imagine Tom Barkhuizen's probably got eyes looking elsewhere because he's hardly featured this season, even though I think he's looked pretty good when he's played. Joe Wards will be on the way out, I'm sure, because he's barely featured, and I don't think he's good enough for this level. Connor Washington hasn't featured at all. I think he'll probably be on his way out. I think we've got quite a few. Corey Blackett-Taylor, another one. He's got the mysterious injury that all players seem to get at the start of the transfer window that aren't performing or aren't getting in the team very much. So I think there's quite a few players. Who do you think's going to go?
Pretty much everybody you mentioned. I reckon we'll look to at least get rid of at least 3 of those. Washington hasn't featured. I know he's been fit. I've actually seen him at the training ground months ago, and he was telling me then he was fit. He's just not featuring, so he'll definitely be on his way out. Corey Blackett-Taylor is a really puzzling one for me because you go out and spend that much money. Obviously, we're not raking the money when we were in League One, but it was our first transfer fee that we paid post administration, and the guy's hardly featured. I mean, we can see that there is quality there. I think given game time, he would have shone, but Warren just doesn't fancy him. And I think I might have said it before. I just didn't think when we signed him, he was a Warren signing in the first place. I just thought that maybe that was a more of a head recruitment type of signing. He'll be gone. Barkhuizen, actually, judging by his last few appearances, actually wanting to stick around because he has looked quite sharp and he's looked like an option that we can bring off the bench. So I would like to see Barkhuizen stay, but I reckon he might go. I did see a rumour about Josh Vickers potentially might wanting to leave as well, considering he's not getting any first team games. So I won't be surprised if he went either. I just think that maybe this level might be a bit too much for him. But all the players you probably mentioned, I reckon will be on the way out, and we'll probably see a couple of the youth players go out on loan as well, I reckon.
Yeah, and it's gonna be a very interesting January. Just watch, we won't sign anyone and we won't sell anyone, and we'll just come out of it with the same squad that we started off with. Right, let's go through it. So basically, what we've done, we've come up with a list of players that we think should come in, and we've come up with 3 that we think are sort of like the main 3, because otherwise this podcast will go on for about 6 weeks. Give a little bit of an outline and have a little bit of discussion on each one. So Dan, go on, give us a name. Who have you sort of looked at and why?
We pushed the defender narrative out before we came on, so we're going to keep it attack minded. I'm going to get it exciting. I'm going to come straight up. Player we're all familiar with from the last 2 years in League One, and this year also doing very well in the struggling Peterborough side. Kwame Poku is out of contract in the summer, and that's 100% the type of player that I would expect us to be moving in on, even if that's just discussion.
Oh, my player that was one of mine as well.
Isn't he injured? So he's injured.
I'm not a regular on the Peterborough thing, but I know he's still got 12 goals this season for a team that's 18th.
Yeah,
I mean, for me, the guy, I think the guy is actually a better player than Mason Clark, and I'm from Coventry, and my friends in their struggling season, Mason Clark's been he's been one of the few shining lights in that, and I think that Poku was actually better than Mason Clark when I seen them play.
Yeah, well, I agree. I thought he was brilliant. I've just had a look. He's out until March, but this is the Derby signing, isn't it? This is exactly like Blackett-Taylor, where a player with 6 months left in his contract. Yeah, I know. 6 months left in his deal, hasn't he? So I wouldn't be surprised if we swarmed in. But we're actually linked with a guy called Ernest Poku, who plays for AZ, because apparently they're our feeder team now. He looks interesting. He's played a lot of games for their second team, which play in the second division in the Netherlands. So I don't know. Maybe we'll have one Poku arrive. I don't know whether it'll be that one, but it's definitely a good shout.
I just think even with him out of contract in the summer, young guys, but hopefully it's not a serious injury for him, but I just think a young guy like that is exactly the sort of player. We should be strengthening the wide areas, not looking to weaken them in any way in this window for me.
Yeah, I agree. Go on, Vic, who's your first choice?
It was Poku. I'll go for a different position. Maybe slightly unrealistic. However, I do know that he is available to go out on loan.
We love delusion here, so it's fine.
Brighton centre forward Evan Ferguson. Now,
come on. Arsenal have just put a bid in. Arsenal have just bidded for him, Vic.
Arsenal don't want him. They just want to do the financial fair play rubbish.
I'm not going to lie, I looked at him too.
I was looking at it and I was thinking he's 5th choice at Brighton at the minute. He burst onto the scene, scoring plenty of goals, and he's exactly the type of striker that we need to sign in terms of his build, his attributes. We've been crying out for a decent number 9 who can hold the ball up and link play. Evan Ferguson does that. So that's why I put him as a loan bid. Obviously, we're not going to go for permanent, but if he is available for loan and they're looking to maybe loan him out to the Championship to get experience, because unless Arsenal put a ridiculous bid in, I can't see him leaving Brighton. I think he might be one for their future. He's only 19 years old. It might be worth a punt. So for my first one, I'll go for that because obviously Dan's taken Poku. So yeah, Evan Ferguson was my pick on loan, but that would obviously require us to send someone back. So maybe if Ozil returns, let's go all out for Ferguson.
You may get called delusional for that, Vic.
I don't mind.
No, look, I tell you what, he'd be some player in the Championship, wouldn't he? He's far too good. I mean, my first choice I've gone for is probably the Iraq version of Evan Ferguson. Same build, same sort of type of player, and it's Ali Al-Hamadi. We were linked with him in the summer. He's hardly featured this season for Ipswich. His scoring record is actually ridiculous. I didn't realize quite how good it was. I mean, he's only 22 years of age. In League Two, he scored 13 goals in 23 games. So that's first half of the season for SC Wimbledon. And then he went to Luton and scored 4 in 14, which you think 4 in 14 is all right. It's not great. But then I looked, he only actually played 281 minutes. So he averages a goal every sort of 80 or so minutes, which is, a really good record. That's Dwight Gale of last season type record. Whether they'd be willing to send him out unless they bring someone in, I don't know. But I do know that Derby were trying to make that deal happen, and the only reason it didn't happen was because Ipswich couldn't get a replacement in there after Broja, and I don't think they got him in the end. So I think it's an interesting one. I mean, what do you think? What do you reckon?
I'm actually going to go away from the goal scoring record. I actually think that we need a proper number 9 who can hold the ball and bring people into play. The goals for me sounds a little bit silly, but they'd be a bonus. I've been absolutely saying on and on to my dad. I think we'd see the best out of Jerry Yates if he had a big number 9 up there with him. I think that's a banker, the one that you just said there. To me, he's the only name that seems reasonable, realistic, and he's available right now. I found it very difficult. Very difficult. I was either too high, like Vic, or I was too low.
Ambition.
And do you know what? I'm going to throw the low one in now. Just because you went high, I'm going to throw my really below standard one in next.
Whack on.
No, I'm going to go. I'm going to go with Alassane Yatta at Notts County. He's sort of been a replacement for Langstaff, really on a hot goal scoring streak this season as well. He wasn't the one I was going to say, but yeah, I think he's one to look out for. Certainly if he mimics what he's done in the first half of the season in the second half, I'll be definitely looking at that in the summer.
One of those big number 9s.
He's a big guy. He's a big guy, but he's also dynamic. Yeah, definitely. the one I was actually going to say was Callum Wilson, but we're not going to get into this.
Now that would get you called deluded. He's also never fit. He joined Ben Osborne in the treatment room.
Well, he'd fit right in. The Moor Farm training ground treatment room is the largest in the EFL. Probably still find George Thorne in there somewhere.
Probably. What have you got, Vic? Who's next for you?
I've also gone down to League Two, but I didn't realise he was actually on loan. So I was looking at Nathan Lowe, who's currently at Walsall on loan from Stoke. He's top goal scorer. He's got 14 goals, 4 assists. 19 years old. He's 6'4". He's very stocky. He's exactly what we're looking for in terms of a hold-up striker who can link up and get other players in, but he just knows where the back of the net is as well. I've seen some of his goals. I'm lucky enough to go and watch Walsall sometimes when Derby are away or if they're not playing. Yeah, I mean, they're top of the league and they're killing it. They're like 14 points clear. So, and trust me, Walsall have been poor in the last few years. But yeah, Nathan Lowe's really stood out to me. I thought if we're going to look maybe down a cheaper option route, then if Stoke don't fancy him, but want to loan him out to maybe higher, or if we can even put a permanent bid in for him, because I can't imagine him costing a lot of money if he's down the pecking order at Stoke. He might be somebody worth looking at just because his goal record speaks for itself. And it's crying out for the sort of player that we need. And I think he'd link up really well with Jerry Yates.
Yeah, I think it's another good option, isn't it? That's a very realistic one as well. I have a feeling that, I won't be surprised if Derby have looked at Nathan Lowe. My next one is one that I actually put on Twitter earlier, so if you follow me, you'll know this one already. He's a midfielder called Leon Flock. It's spelt Flatch, but it's actually, I've been advised that it's pronounced Flock. But he's a holding midfielder. He played for Philadelphia Union in the MLS. He actually came through the academy at St. Pauli, which I think are a really interesting club. They're a proper football hipsters club, aren't they, St. Pauli? I remember going over to Germany and my dad buying some St. Pauli merchandise when we were there. But yeah, he's a defensive midfielder. He's very athletic. I tell you, when I looked at his stats, the first person I thought was Ibu Adams, and that was backed up by the fact that he got the third most amount of interceptions in the MLS. Watched a few clips of him. Looks all right. You can't really see too much of holding midfielders in YouTube compilations, can you? But he seems a decent enough player. I think as well, he'd probably work with the way that Warren wants to set up. It seems clear that Warren wants two sort of like search and destroyers sat in defensive midfield with someone just in front that has that technical ability. I think due to necessity, Kenzo's had to play in that sort of defensive position. But if we bring someone like Flock in, all of a sudden you've got him and Ibu Adams winning the ball back, giving the ball to the likes of Kenzo Hardmine, who can make the difference. So for me, if we can get that one done, I mean, he's on a free, which means that his wages will be more because that's how it works most of the time. But he can't sign for another club in the MLS due to registration reasons because the league over there makes no sense. Everyone who's played Football Manager will know that one. And he's looking for a move abroad. He's half German, I'm pretty sure. I mean, the name kind of gives that away, doesn't it? So, German clubs are interested in him as well. But I don't know. To me, it's one that makes sense for us. And if we can get that over the line, he's only young. He could certainly be a talent. No comments?
He's half German. He's got to be a fantastic player. All German midfielders are fantastic. So
I'd love to be able to comment, but I'm just intrigued by his name. So I'll take your word for it, Jake. If he's an Ibu Adams mold, then it's probably exactly what we need to free Kenzo, because I think Kenzo's wasted in that number 6 position where he's playing at the minute. So if it means we can push him further forward and he offers an Ibu Adams type of style, I'm all for it.
Absolutely. Dan, who've got next?
Just before you mentioned Ibu, I'd like to go back to Alassane Yatta. Is also a Gambian international with Ibu. Yeah, there you go. I'm going to go for my last one. Again, I've got one that's, I'd say, too much, so I'll go for the sensible one. Another player that we may be familiar with, especially from last season, creative Paris Magoma at Brentford. He was on loan at Bolton last year, and every time I watched him play, I always thought he had a lot of gill on the ball. And I'm going to go for him as my third pick.
Where's he at now?
We've got a Centurera back.
Is he still there? Is he still at?
Yeah, he's been in and around the first team. I think he's only made 4 or 5 appearances this season at Brentford, but I'm a big fan of Brentford's model. Quite jealous of it, actually, but yeah.
Sounds perfect. Makes sense to me.
Go for him.
It's a good job. Right, my turn. Interesting. I'm going to go for another rogue one again. And this guy's actually available on a free. So I'm actually looking more towards the free market because I just don't see us having a lot of money to spend. Left back position. Some people might be familiar with him. Brandon Williams. Now, I know there's a lot of talk about him having a lot of attitude issues, and which is why he hasn't signed for a club yet. However, 19 years old. He's quick. He's dynamic. He was part of that promotion-winning team with Ipswich last season. Got a couple of goals. I think he made 15 appearances, scored a couple. And Ipswich fans really rated him quite highly. So I think... no, sorry, he's not 19. He's 24.
I was going to say, I'm just Googling that.
You know what it was? I got it mixed up with Nathan Lowe that I was looking at and mixing all the stats up. But like I said, he showed a lot of promise when he was at Ipswich. Obviously, helped them get promoted last season. Scored a couple of goals. He's quick. He's energetic. He's probably the sort of replacement that we're looking maybe to challenge Elder, or if not overtake Elder and become a first choice left back. I think we all know that come end of the season, Fozzie will probably either retire or he'll probably give one more season, but he'll be a bit part player, a bit similar to what he's doing now. But I just think that we need to start looking more towards the future. And I think Brandon Williams really fits that mold. He's had 6 months out of the game. If he has got attitude issues, you'd like to think that in that 6 months he's probably done a bit of growing up, realised that I need to really book my ideas up if I want to get back into football. And I think lately Derby's been one of those clubs where players tend to find themselves in a home, as Jamie likes to say. So maybe we can offer Brandon Williams a home, but I think he's a really good signing on a free, and that'd be worth a punt for me.
Yeah, but I've just Googled what happened to Brandon Williams. On the 20th of August, 2023, Williams was involved in a traffic collision near Wilmslow. He was subsequently charged with dangerous driving and driving without insurance. On the 3rd of May, 2024, he was disqualified from driving after accumulating 30 points on his licence.
So he's
you have to have that. You have to have that on your CV to come to Derby. Do you know what I mean? Like,
fit right in.
Yeah.
May I remind you that Andre Wisdom parked in a ditch somewhere and then decided to turn up the Pride Park. So it might work for us.
Absolutely, yeah. You need some sort of driving offence to play for us at fullback, don't you? So, yeah, seems like a good time. And to be honest, if he could turn his attitude around, he'd be a good player. If he can't, him and like Taylor on the left wing, that'd be an interesting watch, wouldn't it?
Ace.
But yeah, exactly. My final player. Go on.
As well, just before then, what you're saying, all these are based off really a lot of these guys that we could potentially bring in are on loan, and it's more to do with. I think have we got to the maximum amount of loans now?
We have, yeah.
I don't think we can take. So, I mean, it's not a nursery, so Chirera goes back. So, because I don't really understand why he's even at the club. So it's
weird with Chirera. Yeah, we definitely do. I mean, Chirera's a weird one because apparently in training he's one of the best players that we have, but he just doesn't seem to have it in him on a match day. And you can kind of see that. I mean, when he came on against West Brom, you could tell confidence was high around the ground, and he came on, he fed off it, and he looked really dangerous. When he came on against Leeds, he looked completely different. He looked shy, he looked nervous, and he kept doing things that just didn't make any sense. And I think that's why he got so much stick for it, which, I felt a bit of sympathy for him, to be honest, because he's only a young lad. But I agree, it's short term. And if someone else can come in and make a bigger impact, then, yeah, probably the right decision. But going into my last one is, surprisingly, another player we could get on loan. He's a striker. You'll probably remember him from last season, Jayden Danns. Now, it was sort of mentioned recently, along with the reports that we were in for Louis Barry, who I'm glad none of us have mentioned, because if it happens, it'll be some deal. But I think it's been a bit delusional that he'd probably come to us. But, that'll be all right, won't it? But Jayden Danns, he's a striker. He's a number 9. He's the same height as me, so obviously gigantic. And you'll probably remember from last year that he came on as a sub. I think it was, let me check. Yeah, in the FA Cup. He played 27 minutes in the FA Cup off the bench for a Liverpool team of basically youth players against Southampton, who were a top championship side at the time. And he came on, he scored 2 goals, and he looked really dangerous. But this season, he's hardly featured. He's not played yet in the Premier League. He's been unused sub a few times, and he's come on once in the EFL Cup. So he's barely had a kick all season for the first team. I think he'd be a great signing. You know, another striker, can hold the ball up. Is he young? Yes. Is he probably raw? Yes. But what he'll bring is goals. And what Derby need, apart from a striker that's 12 foot tall to hold the ball up for Jerry Yates, is a striker that can score goals. Because if we have to watch many more games like Sheff Wednesday, then I think I'll be in an early grave if Jerry Yates misses any more.
Neil Dans, is he? He's his son, isn't he?
He is the son of Neil Dans. Yeah, you're right. Yeah.
I remember that.
Yeah, I'd forgot
Birmingham
about
days.
that. Exactly.
Birmingham
but
team, the scourge of me.
Yeah. God, if we could have a bit of that in our team, that'd be all right, wouldn't it? That would be perfect. But right, have we got any more? I know you said you got some honourable mentions. We'll do some quick shout-outs for any more you might have thought of. I've got a couple of the rumory ones that I've seen on like fans forum and stuff like that. Dan, have you got any more to shout out?
I'm going to go for 2. I'm going to go for Villa Jean, who went to Villa from Ipswich last year, not getting a game. Whether that's a delusional one, I'm not entirely sure. And I'm going to go for another player that we were very familiar with last year because he scored a worldie against us. I'm going to go for Adam Phillips at Barnsley. He impressed me. I think he played in all 4 games that we played in League One campaigns against them, and I think he was really good from midfield and a definite eye for goal, which I think we need. I think that's due to the Kenzo thing, where he's not being played probably in the right position, but we need goals from central midfield, and he's got a pole driver on him.
Does he want to play holding mid though? That's the question.
Yeah, that's a real congested centre circle at Derby. That is.
That is. I like it. Vic, you got any more in your head?
Again, looking at the free sort of market. Again, I know we're probably desperate for another winger, and I'm surprised he's on a free as well. Ryan Kent. I just thought that maybe someone of his quality could be something that we might want to look at. I don't know if he's got attitude problems as well, or there is some reason why he hasn't been signed up, but I was quite surprised to see he was available on a free. And I thought if we are looking to maybe ship some of our wingers out, maybe if we bring one in with Ryan Kent's quality, I think that might really add to what we've already got at Derby, and I think just gives us another outlet. I've also gone for a bit more of a familiar face for us that we've seen over the last couple of years.
Waghorn.
No, God, no. God, no. That guy needs to retire. Dion Charles at Bolton. Reason I've gone for him, he's not worth a lot. They're struggling this season. I can't see Ian Evatt lasting that long, if I'm honest, because I think they're 10th at the minute. He's only, according to Transfermarkt, he's only worth 750k. At that sort of price, you don't mind taking a punt on him. He's a guy that scores goals no matter how many. I mean, even at this season, he's got 22 appearances, 7 goals, which isn't too bad. Dion Charles could really fit in, and imagine him and Yates up top. I think that could be a decent partnership as well. And if he's not, if he's worth low money, below $1 million, or even just touching $1 million, I think that might be worth a punt as well. I know he's about 29, so he's at his peak age, but the guy knows where the back of the net is. And like we said, all podcasts pretty much, that we're dying for a striker. Why not go for someone like Dion Charles?
Yeah, absolutely. Both good shouts. And the only other one that I've sort of got is a left back / left wing back we're linked with from Schalke. He's called Derry Merkin, which is a really funny name. But I've watched obviously some YouTube compilations of him, and he looks very good, but so do most players. And yeah, he's another one. I think that's probably more looking towards the summer. So yeah, if we can get some of the players in there, if we sign all these players, we'll have so many strikers, so many midfielders, we'll score loads of goals. I mean, it's been interesting to read the comments. We need a striker, we need a winger, we need a midfielder. I've seen a lot of people calling for more defenders. I've also seen some people calling for us to get rid of Cashin, which is crazy in my opinion. I think we've noticed straight away how much we need. I mean, yesterday, that first goal doesn't happen if Cashin's on the pitch. I don't think the third or the fourth goal happen if Cashin's on the pitch either. I think he makes that much of a difference. So when he's back, it'll be a very big thing for us.
I think now, I think the money for him is not as valuable as him himself. I just don't think we'd go out and get anyone that really fits everything that we're all about right now. So sooner he's back, the better for me.
Yeah, absolutely. Completely agree. Right. So let's move on to looking towards Bristol City. As I said, things are changing a little bit on the pod. Preview episodes are no more. Rest in peace. They were good whilst they lasted. We did those for 2 years. They took a lot of time and a lot of suffering for all of us. So we've changed it a little bit. And the way it works now is instead of having a full preview episode, we're going to have little bits of previews that other creators will send in and we'll use on here. And we'll have little 5-10 minute clips just going through things, and then we can talk about it because we want to talk about Derby more, don't we, really? So to preview Bristol City away from home, which I'm very much looking forward to, it'd be nice to see a win after 1 win, 7 defeats away for me so far this season. We've got Three Peeps in a podcast who very kindly have put together a little bit of a package for us, as well as a nice little game at the end. So get thinking of players that have played for both teams. Let's see if you can get more than us and get more than them. So here's Three Peeps in a pod and their preview for us against Bristol City.
Thanks to the Rams Talk podcast for getting in touch and asking for us for our thoughts ahead of the game against Derby County at Ashton Gate on the 4th of the new year in January. And Matt is with me. Matt, we've just finished our Plymouth podcast, and a bitter blow to concede in injury time when we should really have come away with 3 points. But we came away with a point. But as we said at the end of the podcast, if we can get a win against Derby, 10 points from possible 12 over the post-Christmas festive period would be a good return.
Yeah, absolutely. Big game patch, really. Because of that, you want to make sure that the victories we picked up against Luton and Portsmouth aren't then kind of wasted to some extent by not following that up with the win against Derby.
Yeah, and the first question they've asked us is, how have we got on since our game at Derby County back on the 31st of August last year? That was a 3-0 defeat. We followed it up with another 3-0 defeat at Blackburn, which wasn't the best performance. But since then, we've picked up a number of wins, quite a lot of draws, it's fair to say. Only one other sort of heavy defeat from Portsmouth back in December. And then obviously we lost at West Brom as well for 2 clear goals. But it has been a bit of a topsy-turvy season, and we're hoping to get 3 wins on the bounce. We had the back-to-back wins for the first time, which was great to get. But yeah, it's been up and down, I think is fair to say, and we see ourselves still mid-table.
Yeah, the Derby game was a strange one, wasn't it? Because we actually played really well. Sinclair missed a couple of kind of one-on-ones. And then second half we were terrible, and that was followed by, as you say, Blackburn was an equally sort of poor performance. And then we went on a run where we actually performed really, really well, and it was probably, and there might have been one in between it, but probably the Portsmouth away was the next one that you would kind of look at and say we were never in it, and then subsequently West Brom. But yeah, I mean that's actually 4 games, but we were kind of looking at it and going, we've been in every game and we've played really well at times, and we've just not seen it over the line. And usual track of days.
Whatever day
the New Year's Day game against Plymouth was case in point, a game that we absolutely should be winning. We end up drawing in, and I think those draws will end up costing us at the end of the season in terms of getting anywhere near the playoffs.
Yeah, 10 draws now, 8 wins, 7 losses. Still that positive goal difference, which is always a good indicator for me. We sit in 10th place with Derby County to come. The other question they've asked is, what was the reaction to our previous meeting? I think we kind of covered that. We were kind of in that game for 20 minutes, a couple of chances for Sinclair Armstrong, who is now out injured with a couple of other players. But we reacted to that in hoping for a bounce back against Blackburn. It didn't come, unfortunately. But yeah, it was a strange couple of games, those, because historically over the last season, maybe 2 seasons, we've not lost by 2, let alone 3 goals.
Yeah. I think it was the manner, wasn't it, of the way we kind of capitulated really against Derby, and it was funny. It was another good day out when CJ joined us, and we were chatting to some Derby fans in the pub beforehand, weren't we? And we were sort of lauding Max Bird and saying how brilliant he's been in Jason Knight and both of them, but certainly Max Bird probably is poorest game to date in a City shirt, really.
Well, I think the good news for us and bad news for Derby County, famous last words, is that Max and Jason are both putting in, 6, 7+ performances, aren't they, in terms of our 7 out of 10?
Both were arguably man of the match, weren't they, yesterday against Plymouth? And obviously Knightley getting the goal, but Max Bird was excellent, creating the first goal. So, yeah, hopefully Derby fans see what we see more often than not, and certainly in the case of Jason Knight, who's been outstanding this season. Yeah. I'm expecting a much better performance than we had in certainly the second half at Derby.
Yeah, and in terms of the City players that are most likely to cause Derby problems, we're playing now in this 3-4-2-1 formation, not necessarily with wingers, but 2 number 10s. Anis Mehmeti, 9 goals now for the season. He is, if you like, our in-form player. Scott Twine, we know how dangerous he can be from set pieces and also intelligence-wise, threading through those passes. But now you're bringing in Max Bird and Jason Knight, who are consistently performing. And our defence, we have to say, has become settled and more assured. So there's danger all over the pitch if you're an opposing fan wondering who from Bristol City is going to cause problems.
Yeah, if we can perform to the levels that we know we're capable of, then absolutely we're solid, from a back point of view. But moving forward,
well, kicking off.
I'll let the dogs calm down. Just come in. Moving forward, defensively solid, but as you say, midfield looks really good. Anis Mehmeti is definitely the player you look at because of his goals and the way he's been playing. But Naki Wells has been performing really, really well for us. So if we perform, we know we've got every chance of getting another win. So yeah,
and they ask us what weaknesses we've got. Well, we're not going to highlight them, but clearly into the late knock-ins of a game and into injury time seems to be a bit of a mental weakness for us.
Yeah, I mean, I think that's something that's impacted us a number of times this season. Plymouth on New Year's Day, but Sunderland away very late. It's something mentality wise that we have to be stronger with, definitely.
Okay, and then score prediction for the game. I'm going to go with a win. I'm going to go with a home win. 2-1 would be my prediction. Another one, 10th goal of the season for Mehmeti, and I fancy Jason Knight to pop up with another one now that he's got the confidence of scoring that fantastic dinked goal against Plymouth, and he'll be looking to put right, and Max Bird, the performance that they put in at Derby, at home against Derby, because they'll want to show up to their former team.
Yeah, you would think so. You'd think that they'd want to show what they're missing. I don't like predicting, but I'm going to go for a home win as we've been asked, and I'm going to go 2-0 with Wells and Mehmeti.
I went to talk then. I was still muted. Thank you very much to Three Peeps in a Pod for sending their I guess all the details of Bristol City through. I did enjoy the dog that was louder than the entire Chef Wednesday fan base yesterday. That really caught me out then. I watched this clearly not on a loud enough volume before we put it onto here, but no, I really appreciate it. But the one thing that they did have left in the recording that I've not included in this is players that have played for both. Now, it's an interesting talking point. There's quite a few players that have played for both. I've got 3 in my head. Dan, you got any in your mind?
I think if I said the 3 that I think we'd definitely clash and have the same ones, but I'll go for good old Frankie Fielding.
That wasn't on my mind, but that's a good one.
That was the one I didn't think that would be, but
go on, Vic. Have you got one?
Go on.
There's loads, isn't there? There's obviously Chrissy Martin did it. Lewin Nayatanga played for both. At one point, they were just buying our players, so it felt like every transfer window they were just taking everyone we had. Hayden Roberts, wouldn't mind seeing him back at Derby. To be fair, this is loads.
Jason Knight, Max Bird, Corey Smith.
Corey Smith played there as well. I forgot about that. Someone said
Andy
Vyman, that's another good one.
Someone said
Richie Keogh in the comments.
Keogh?
If we're going all the way back to the Cloughy days, I think I think Steve Davis, Nigel that is, by the way, but I think Steve Davis played for him as well.
Oh
Yeah,
yeah,
he
Richard Keogh. Richard Keogh did 2005 to 2008. He played for Bristol City. I didn't know that. There we go. Definitely some interesting ones.
It's interesting.
It was
And
interesting
Kane
what they
Wilson.
raised. Oh, Kane Wilson, of course. Yeah, Kane Wilson. But it was interesting, wasn't it, that they raised that late on in games, they seem to struggle a little bit. They don't seem to have that mentality. They don't seem to be able to hold on. I know another team that are good at that as well. And unfortunately, we support them. So can you see, Dan? I mean, you said you're making the trip. I'm making the trip as well. Can't wait. Vic's not. He's plastic. But we'll be there to support the team. Can you see us getting a bit of joy from that with their sort of soft underbelly late in the game?
I think firstly, the main reason I'm still going is because I made an agreement with someone at work who's a Bristol City fan months ago. But no, I'll be going. I think get sort of what the question was, but I guess it's along the lines of what do I think comes of it. I think my head's just telling me. I agree with what the guys have just said there. I think that they'll put the wrongs right. That they made it at Pride Park. I think they'll beat us, but the heart says we'll get a draw out the game.
Oh, Vic, bring us some New Year's joy. 3-0, 4-0.
I'm a plastic, so it don't matter. No, I'm joking. We haven't got a great record at Ashton Gate. I'll be really in recent years. I can't remember us winning there too often. But saying that, despite the result yesterday, I don't think we played that bad. And if there's anything that is quite consistent, is we're actually trying in games now. And I think if we go back to a back four and just sort of find that midfield balance again, I just felt like it wasn't there against Sheffield Wednesday. If we can tweak the midfield a little bit, just be more on the front foot, I can't see why we can't go there and take all 3 points. I mean, Bristol City, when they came to our place, we saw that they just want to put the ball on the deck. They want to play pretty football. I think Liam Manning's the manager, if I'm correct. Yeah, so you know what Liam Manning's all about. And we counteracted that perfectly. Okay, yeah, we've got a few injuries, but I think we can give them a game. So I'm gonna go for a sneaky 1-0 win. I think Bird and Knight are gonna have absolutely shocking games because they love Derby so much. But I think we'll nick it towards the end just because we won't gas out this time, like Paul likes to say. We'll keep going on all the way through, and we'll get a last minute Jerry Yates bicycle kick again. Go on, let's do it.
I don't think I've ever seen a team gas out the way that Derby do. I mean, yeah, I don't know what it is. I think it's probably just the fact that we don't have too many options, isn't it? We've not got that depth. I think we've got so many players that we're sort of carrying. Like we mentioned, we've got Joe Ward, obviously the likes of probably Sonny Bradley. I don't think he's good enough for this level. We've got quite a few players that aren't quite at this level. So when they do come on, you can see us lose it. We saw it at Leeds when we made those subs. We instantly looked at a poorer team. So I think, yeah, I really hope that we've had a week's break. Or is it a week's break? I don't know what day it is anymore. Just like the Bristol City guys, 5-6 days break that we've had. You'd hope that we'd get a little bit of that energy back, and we'd be able to play our strongest team and get a result. So we'll see. I'm sure it'll be fine. We've got a couple in the comments. We've got Andy who says it's going to be 1-0 Derby. Harry Hammond is miserable and says 2-0 Bristol City. Jason Knight double. It's going to be a really interesting game, but I can see us getting something out of this. Like I said, I think they're one of those teams that has the capacity to roll over. We saw it at Pride Park. Let's hope we see it again at Ashton Gate. Can we get that second away win? Can I finally see a second win? I mean, everyone's seen maximum one win, haven't they? I know Adam Goalhang has not seen a win yet. He wasn't at Coventry. I think he's done about 9 away games, but not won yet.
I haven't seen one.
You would at Coventry.
No.
So let's make sure at least.
Could you imagine going the rest of the season with 1 away win and staying up, and then going back and finding a team in the last 10 years in the Championship that have managed to do that? That says kind of a lot about the Championship for me this year. To be honest, that we've only got 1 away win and we're not in the relegation zone. Well, there you go.
Look back at when the 21-point deduction season, we'd stayed up mathematically and we only won 3 away that season. So, it is done. It can be done. I think I think we'll improve in January. Let's hope we sign, like I said, every single player that we brought up earlier. And we'll be safe and sound. We'll make playoffs. We'll be fine. We'll be.
They need the lads back from injury. I think like Nyambi and Cashin, and I hope I do get to see Ozo play in the Derby shirt again and really hit that form that he did, because I think with them three in the team, with a bit more depth, that is a proper Championship 11.
It certainly is. So thank you so much for listening. If you did enjoy, please do leave a like. Please do subscribe. If you've got any ideas for things we can do on the channel, things we can change, things we can update, please let us know. We're always open. It's a new year. Things are going to be a little bit different, but it's all good. Please do leave comments on what you think. What do you think of the players? Who should Derby bring in? What are our weak spots? It'd be good to hear your thoughts as well. So, thank you so much for listening. And Dan, I hope you know what we're going to do here, but I'm going to say it's goodbye from me.
And it's goodbye from me. I'd like to thank you and Vik for having me on. Hopefully I can come on again soon and we can have a little bit more of a laugh and hopefully have 27 more players on the books.
That'd be good.
And Happy New Year, Rams fans. Don't worry, we're going to go get 3 points at Bristol City. Goodbye from me.
Took the words right out of my mouth. Happy New Year. Derby going to get 3 points this weekend. Up the Rams, and we'll see you soon.